Hello everyone and welcome to the top 8 from the Mississippi Valley Regional Championship here from St. Charles, Missouri. It's run by Yeti Gaming, as you can see down there, and it's going to be streamed by us, the Top Cut, and we have an interesting matchup to say the least in the top 8. We're going to have James Proctor, a player from around the area who's using a Gardevoir Mewtwo deck. Let that one sink in. It's a Gardevoir, you know, the stage 2 one that makes all your psychic energy count as 2. He is here in the top 8 at the largest regional in the nation. And he'll be going up against Jando Luna. He's playing a Garbodor Mewtwo Landorus deck. So I don't know how this works. I have never seen a Gardevoir deck in a tournament in action. So it's going to be a learning experience for all of us. But let us cut to the match, and we'll see what's going on. See, they're getting set up here. This will be a best 2 out of 3 match. 75 minutes, so this is going to be a long one probably. It looks like James has already mulliganed once. And he's going to mulligan once again. Hondo's going to get a good look at the deck. And I don't know. On paper, you know, you'd think the Garbodor deck would have the advantage, shutting off the Gardevoir's ability, but who knows? James plays lots of Mewtwo's, plays all sorts of crazy stuff. So maybe he'll surprise us all. Who knows? Unfortunate that he's going to mulligan a second time. An interesting thing is whether or not James will play Tool Scrapper. Of course, Garbodor, it's a stage 1, the ability Garbotoxin. When you have a Pokemon tool attached to it, it shuts off all abilities. So that's going to shut off Gardevoir's Psychic Mirage, I think that's what it's called, that provides double for every Psychic energy. And if Jando can get that into play, shut off the Gardevoir, I think James is going to be in a lot of trouble. If James can play a Tool Scrapper to discard the tools off the Garbodor and still get the extra energy, I think he'll be fine. But does he play Tool Scrapper? That is going to be what we're going to find out. I don't know these players' lists, and we are getting started here. Mewtwo versus Mewtwo. Where have I seen this before? So, yeah, both these guys are going to be running a lot of Mewtwo's. Sorry if you don't like X-Ball, but you're going to see a lot of it in this matchup, I'm sure. And we have, I mean, honestly, this is 2 rogue decks going at it in the top 8. When there's 390 players in this Masters division, and these guys somehow made it through the field with their decks. And, you know, more power to them. Rogue decks are still alive and well. You know, people were just saying there's nothing but Blastoise, nothing but Darkrai, nothing but Eels, but hey, these guys are showing us something different. We have Garbodor against Gardevoir, the stage 2 Pokemon. And I'm excited to see what happens in this matchup. And we see Jando with a level ball right off the bat. He's going to be going for a Trubbish, I'm sure. Just get that into play. It's going to be very, very useful in this matchup. You got to wonder what James wants to do in this matchup. I mean, does he want to go and target down the Trubbishes? That way he could follow up with, you know, his Gardevoir being able to use the ability. The only problem is if he catches out the Trubbish and attacks it, then he leaves himself vulnerable to his opponent using X-Ball, which is no good. So it's going to be a very complicated matchup. Honestly, I think this is going to be James' toughest matchup. I think he's going to struggle a lot with this. But he's made it this far. He's made it through a ton of great players. He made it through the Swiss rounds. He beat national champion John Roberts II in top 32. And this guy is no slouch. We're going to see him putting on a show here, and right off the bat, X-Ball, turn 1, DCE for 80 damage. And I don't know if James will have the cards to respond. You know, I don't know if he plays Tool Scrapper. That's going to be number 1. He's going to play a Skyla here. What will he grab with that? Going to grab a plus power. Uh-oh. If he has 2 plus powers and a DCE, he can get the knockout here, but that Eevee, and there's a computer search. He is all in, folks. Oh my goodness. He is just going for it, and maybe this is how he got here. He is just having fun. He's taking every risk he can, and there is a double plus power DCE. Turn 1 takes down the Mewtwo with the Eevee. And oh, if you're Jando, you cannot be feeling good about that. James is just kind of letting all his cards fly out there. That's just kind of his personality. He's a cool guy. He's just really laid back about this. He just came to have fun. He just came to do whatever. He's playing his Gardevoir Mewtwo deck because he can. And this has carried him all the way to the top 8. This is just a great story to see. People are like, what? A Gardevoir deck made it through the Swiss rounds? And no, it's not just through the Swiss rounds. He is in the top 8 of the biggest regional in the nation. And right off the bat, turn 1, he takes 2 prizes. Now, Jando can respond to this. He can get another Mewtwo and a DCE out. But if he does it, he's going to be falling behind. It's going to be rough for him. And it's ugly. He needs Mewtwo, DCE, switch this turn. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to pull anything off. Obviously, this was a huge risk from James just kind of going for it. Like, he's saying, you know what? I'm going to go for it. If I get it, if you don't follow up with another Mewtwo, then I'm going to be in a great position. Even if you do, I think I'm going to be okay. I played out a lot of cards in my hand, but I got the first 2 prizes. I don't care that much. I can still mount a comeback. The only issue is that he did have to use 2+ powers to do it. And just based on that, I don't think he plays Tool Scrapper. If you're playing plus powers in a stage 2 deck, probably not playing Tool Scrapper. But yeah, we'll see. I gotta update the prize count here. Apologize for that. I gotta get used to this stuff. Alright, and there we go. 4 prizes to 6 here. Mewtwo EX does give up 2 prizes. We're gonna see Jando Ultra Ball away on Terrakion and an N. Grabbing that Garbodor, so he's coming out early. I guess that means he does not have the cards to get a Mewtwo this turn, and if he doesn't, we're going to see James probably jump out to a 3-prize lead and be well on his way to victory. This is crazy. I don't know what else to say. You cannot be more aggressive than what these guys are doing. And it looks like Jando is he's doubling back. He's taking a Trubbish instead. Still no Mewtwo. But yeah, he's just going after the Trubbish. And you can see James, he level balled for a Sigilyph. Now, the fact that he didn't even go for a Ralts is probably pretty telling. Because that probably means he doesn't play Tool Scrapper. If he did, he would just still go for the Gardevoir, because why wouldn't you? And we see a Juniper out of Jando. He gets a switch in DCE. Does he get the Mewtwo? No, he whiffed. Oh man, that was a huge draw there. If he had Ultra Balled for the Mewtwo there and just went for it, he would have pulled off an X-Ball this turn, and he would have gotten a big knockout there. I apologize for the announcements. We are in the same room as the Video Game Championship, so it's going to be a little obnoxious. But there's nothing we can really do about that. So we just have to bear with it. Sorry if it's kind of loud and distracting in the background, but he's just going to switch into Landorus, and then we're going to see a Hammerhead for 40 actually. And then it's going to put the Mewtwo up to 120 damage, I believe. And the Sigilyph will take 0 because of the Safeguard ability. Sigilyph would be great against this kind of a deck, but Garbodor shuts off Safeguard, which is really the only redeeming factor of Sigilyph. So, yeah, we're probably not going to see Sigilyph do very much in this kind of a matchup. But he's going to take another one. He's just going to say, whatever. I can use this to knock out Garbodor too, I guess. And I guess his plan has got to be take out all those Garbodors, take out all the Trubbishes. If he can take those out of play, he'll win the game. If he can draw enough catchers, I think he will win. And you can see these guys are being very cool about each other. They're not cutting each other's decks or anything like that. They're just kind of, and another double colorless on the Mewtwo. He's just going for it. He's just been, from the start, he's just saying, I'm just going to X-Ball with Mewtwo all day. And that's all there is to it. And there's another Mewtwo. He got the turn 1 double plus power DCE knockout on Hondo's Mewtwo. That's got to set him reeling a little bit. It's kind of a shock when you put down a Mewtwo with an Eviolite and turn 1 it gets knocked out. You don't really expect that to ever happen. But it happened, and you got to deal with it. And you just got X-Balled for 100. Unless he can get a Mewtwo out this turn, which he did draw a Skyla, so... but he did have to use his switch last turn in order to Hammerhead. So he won't have the cards to pull off a Mewtwo this turn, I don't think. And if he doesn't, what does he do? He can Hammerhead for 30. That's it. There's 120 damage on the Mewtwo. It's not going to knock it out. Unless he had 2+ powers, that would be a big play. But if he doesn't, he's going to fall behind 4 prizes to this first Mewtwo. He's going to have 2 Trubishes in play, so that's just like 2 catchers that can be knocked out by Sigilyph or Mewtwo. And he's just going to Sigilyph for an N. I guess he doesn't have another supporter. He can't really knock out the Mewtwo this turn, so might as well just take N, which is going to put James down to 2 prizes next turn. So that's a good move from Jando here. We will see how this plays out. I mean, I did not expect things to take a turn like this. I guess this probably is a really bad matchup for James. You know, the Garbodor is really tough, but this is just Mewtwo. You can throw everything out the window once you got Mewtwo, double colorless, and plus power in the equation. He makes every matchup kind of silly. And games can just degenerate into, does your opponent draw Mewtwo and double colorless himself? And this game, Jando has not. So he's been on the losing end so far. So now there's 150 on one Mewtwo, 30 on the other. We see a Ralts come down. I don't know if that'll ever get used this game, but it could. We're going to see a Psychic go on to the Mewtwo. And I would expect just an X-Ball. And we're going to see James go down to 2 prizes, but it might be too quick. You know, he might just kind of be taking prizes too quickly, because we do know Jando has an N in his hand. So he might just kind of run out of steam, and he could just not draw anything the rest of the game. But oh, he does play Tool Scrapper. Okay, so I didn't think he did, but I see one in his deck. He's going to play a Sigilyph. He might actually just go for the Tool Scrapper, use it this turn, get rid of both those Rescue Scarves. That would be pretty nice, but he also might want to save that Tool Scrapper for one turn where he really needs to use Gardevoir's ability to make his energy counters too. So it's going to be tricky. He actually just takes another level ball. We'll see what he takes. See a second Ralts. So his bench is loaded, just all Psychic Pokemon. That's all his deck is. Mewtwo, Gardevoir, Sigilyph. And then I think he plays a Meloetta as well. So he's just got all purple in this deck. Nothing else, just straightforward. Haven't really seen anything like this. But hey, obviously it's working. He's got the advantage in this game. We got another X-Ball. Taking down the Landorus. And now it's going to be up to Jando to do something this turn. Now, even if he were to get, you know, a Mewtwo DC this turn to respond, that's still risky. It could just be a double colorless from James and the game's over. So his best option's probably going to be to get another Landorus out and Hammerhead if he can do that. Otherwise, attacking with Mewtwo at this point, unless he can knock out both of James' Mewtwo's first, it's just not going to be an option. There's a Super Rod. We see the Landorus, Mewtwo, and a Fighting go back in. We're definitely going to see him play an N this turn, but he really doesn't have anything in his hand, so it's all going to be, it's just purely based on what he draws off of his N, I think. He has a catcher in hand as well. He might play that before the N. Could bring up like Ralts, and if he gets Landorus and a Fighting, he could just do 32 Ralts and then knock out the Mewtwo. But he's just going to play the N. And here we go. This is what the format can degenerate into a lot. As if, you know, Mewtwo double colorless wasn't straightforward enough. Now we have N to kind of mix things up a little bit. It's going to make things messy. And James, you know, he could draw something, but he might not draw anything the rest of the game. The good thing for him is that he really didn't play any Junipers early on. He only used a Skyla and a Bianca, and then I think another Skyla. So he's got a ton of supporters left. He could just draw one. We'll see what he gets off of the 2 cards, though. I guess we'll find out next turn. We'll see if he has a supporter. And what does Jando get this turn? He gets a Garbodor. That's pretty big. And does he get anything else, though? If he doesn't get an attacker this turn, he's going to be in a ton of trouble. He's going to use a catcher, so that's pretty telling that he doesn't really have anything. Probably bring up a Ralts. Can't see him bringing up anything else. Maybe Sigilyph, I don't know. Definitely not the Mewtwo. That would be a mistake. And Yep, brings up a Ralts, trying to buy some time. Maybe James won't draw an energy to retreat. And we're going to see a garbage collection as someone bumps into the camera. So he gets to take a card from his discard pile and put it back on top of his deck. It's a nice little attack, honestly. I actually saw a match in the previous round where someone had 0 cards left in their deck and they had to use garbage collection to prevent themselves from decking out. That was an interesting situation. So always nice to know what all of your attacks do. And there's a switch right into Mewtwo. Does he have anything else? Doesn't look like it, just an X-Ball. This is a big turn for Jando. He's down 6-1, but he could make the comeback here. Interesting that he decided to grab Juniper instead of N, I guess. I mean, there's no way for him to know if James had a good hand. You might want to go for N there knowing you're going to get 6. James might just get 1, but he decided to go for Juniper instead. And really, he's going to switch into Trubbish and Juniper. And he's really got to draw another switch and a way to attack. Otherwise, he's just going to have to pass. I mean, he's going to have to retreat to something with high hit points and pass. And this has just been a really ugly game for Jando. Everything's going right for James. Everything going wrong for Jando. And you got to feel for him. But it is best 2 out of 3. So just the first game doesn't matter. And I think we just saw a Juniper top deck. Yep. This guy is on fire, man. He cannot lose, can he? Just every round seems everything's going his way. Does he get a catcher? This will be the game if he does. We see a rare candy into Gardevoir. So we do see Gardevoir hit the board this game. It's not going to do anything, but it does hit the board. And a Psychic on a Mewtwo, so I do not think he pulled it off. But an X-Ball for 80 is almost just as devastating. It's going to set up next turn where even if Jando gets a knockout, a Mewtwo can just come up and attach and X-Ball him for 100, and that'll be game over. So he puts a fighting on the Landorus. You can just see him kind of smirking like, yeah, this is just one of those games where nothing goes my way. And he's just kind of, you just gotta tip your hat to the other guy when he turn 1 double plus powers your Mewtwo. There's nothing you can do about that. And here is a Hammerhead. He's gonna knock out the Mewtwo, do 30 somewhere else. 30 to the Mewtwo, and if James has an energy, this game is over. And there, right off the top, who knows? Or will this guy not ever draw everything? That was impressive to say the least. I don't know what else to say about it. James Proctor is just rolling right now. Can Jando stop him in these next 2 games? I don't know. Is James Proctor just destined to win? The one Gardevoir deck in the entire field. I'm kind of speechless. I don't know what to say about this. If you're Jando, you can't let that get to you. It's just one game. You know, you've made it all the way to the top 8. Obviously, you're doing something right. And that was really the best start James ever could have hoped for. And you just kind of forget about it, move on to game 2. It's the best 2 out of 3 series. You get to go first. And just stay calm. Don't let your nerves get to you. And realize that, okay, this is a pretty solid matchup for me. I just have to hope my opponent doesn't draw everything he needs every time. And then I don't pass every turn. Because that's usually a formula for losing. So these guys are going to shuffle up. This is the top 8 from the Mississippi Valley Regional Championship here in St. Charles. We have a ton of people at this tournament. 390 Masters is what I heard. And there are only 8 left now. These 2 are 2 of the 8 with some rogue decks here. We see Garbodor has been well represented in this tournament. We have at least 2 left. 3 left, actually. 3 of the top 8 are Garbodor decks, so unexpected to say the least. People were getting lazy, skimping on their tool scrappers, and that's what could happen. I did see a Blastoise deck take out a Garbodor deck last round, though, so anything can happen. Who knows who's going to win this tournament? We got all sorts of new players, old players, up-and-coming players, and it's just tough to predict in this format who's going to win. I think a lot of people are rooting for the guy with the Gardevoir deck just because it's weird. And people like to root for the underdog, but Jando, he's still got a fighting chance here. We'll see if he can rebound here in the second game. These guys continue to shuffle. Again, he did lose the first game, so he gets to choose who goes first. There are 75 minutes here for the top cut, so this game, or this match, definitely will finish all 3 games. Nobody's going to lose on time here. And we shall see if Jando can get a better start this time around. He honestly, after the perfect start from James, Jando had a really good shot at winning still. He just missed out on a lot of crucial cards. And camera's getting a little laggy, but that's all right. We have another Mewtwo start from Jando. It's probably not the Pokemon he wants to start with in this matchup. Probably Landorus. And James is going to start with 2 Pokemon. Let's see what they are. We got a Ralts and a Ralts. Ooh, that's not good. So we could just see a turn 1 X-Ball knock out a Ralts. Fortunate for James that he did not start with just 1 Ralts. Then it just would have been double call this game over. And a Juniper right away from Jando, discarding 2 switches, a Garbodor, and a Super Rod. Those switches are not the cards you want to see hit the discard pile that early on. One of the ways Garbodor can lose is if they get their Garbodor stuck in the active spot and they run out of switches. So it does have a 3 retreat cost. It might not come to that, but that's just something to keep in mind as the game goes on. And also, discarding a Super Rod and 2 Fighting Energy could come back to bite him at some point. But it's going to be a long game. It's tough to tell what's going to happen. And usually whatever happens turn 1 is not just the end of the game. Now we do see a Heavy Ball. The only Pokemon he can really take with this that he's going to use is Landorus. Could grab a Garbodor, but I don't think he really wants to right now. Just wants to get another basic in play. Let's see what he's going to take. Search through his deck. He's going to look to see what's prized. Maybe his other Garbodors are prized. That could be a very, very unlucky circumstance for him. But even if they are, that's not the end of the game. You can still win this kind of a matchup just with Mewtwo and Landorus. You really can. And if you maybe just knock out an EX, you get Garbodor out of the prizes. Again, I don't know if they are prized, but just based on how many times you look through his deck, there's a possibility they might be. Okay, so let's see what Jando decides to do here. He's going to drop a Fighting on the Landorus. And he might not have anything else. I mean, he probably doesn't have a switch because he discarded 2 right off the bat. That's where discarding the switches can really get to you. You don't have the freedom to switch between your attackers. You know, if you want to just switch to Landorus and Hammerhead, you want to switch to Mewtwo and X-Ball one turn, you don't really have that freedom anymore to just kind of go between your attackers. And, you know, with all these Pokemon having high retreat costs, the Landorus has 3, Mewtwo has 2, Garbodor has 3, you are forced to play 4 switches. It's not like a Darkrai deck where everything gets free retreat. It's not like, these other decks where you don't have to worry about that all the time. You know, a Keldeo deck, you can just rush in all the time. This, you have to run 4 switches, and there's a reason for it. But here goes Mewtwo. James, he's just been doing the same thing every matchup, I think. It's just been all Mewtwo all the time. Get a Gardevoir out there, then all your energy become double colorless. And, you know, when you get to run like 12 double colorless in your deck with Mewtwo, it's pretty good. So here is Mewtwo. We'll see if James is going to switch or something like that. And is he going to be ballsy enough to just go for a turn 1 X-Ball? He's going to computer search here. Now he discarded an N with that and a rare candy. He realizes that Jando really does not have a very strong hand. So he decides to computer search for the Juniper instead. He's going to draw an extra card with that. And basically he's saying, I know you didn't have a double colorless that turn. So I'm just going to Juniper, try to get a switch, DCE, and then I'll X-Ball you for 80 this turn. And you know, if you got the cards to knock me out, then so be it. But odds are you probably don't. So here is the Juniper for 7. Now he still needs to draw the DC and the switch. Otherwise, we might see him attach 2 Ralts and I think it's like Smack for 20, but he's going to attach to the Mewtwo instead and just drop a Psychic. And he's going to pass. So uneventful first turn, not like the last game. And Hano did top deck a DC. So we'll see what he wants to do with that. This is really scary, honestly, to attack with Mewtwo at all at this point. Because you know your opponent is playing a deck that's just built to win a Mewtwo war. That's really all his deck is he wants to be the one X-balling the hardest. And he's still going to attach the DC. He might retreat. Yep, he's going to just retreat instead. James, his deck really doesn't deal with Landorus that well. He can, X-ball, can 2-hit it. Well, that's really all he's got. It's not like a Keldeo deck where you can just Secret Sword for a knockout. It's going to be pretty much a 2-hit knockout every time. And all he has is Mewtwo to attack with. So that opens up the door for Hondo to X-ball then. We're going to see Hammerhead for 30 and 30. We'll see if he decides to go for both Ralts. If he does that, it's going to force James to evolve one of them. Otherwise, he's going to give up 2 prizes to Hammerhead. And then you got to think Hondo's in a fantastic position to take this game. So a lot's going to happen here in the next few turns. Still no Trubbish on board, though. So it could be a scary turn if James can get Gardevoir out there. All of his Psychic Energy will count as 2 then. And there's no way for Hondo to stop it. And still no supporter in his hand. That's a rough beat for him. I know he had to Juniper a bunch of stuff away. And now it's not going well for him. But he's going to target down the Mewtwo instead. Just hit that for 30. It's going to set that up for an easier X-ball from his own Mewtwo. We do see a level ball. We might see a Curlia. I don't know if James plays one of those. He probably does. He's going to search for it, and I don't think it's in there, so he's going to have to grab a Sigilyph instead then. Curlia, of course, the stage 1 of Ralts. I know this might seem weird to you guys. We don't get stage 2 Pokemon very often in this format, but Pokemon can evolve twice. Normally we've seen basic Pokemon all the time, but Pokemon still evolve, don't worry. And there is the Sigilyph. Level ball, you can grab any Pokemon with 90 hit points or less. And we'll see, can he pull an attack off this turn? If he can, that'll be huge. And he's going to catch her out Mewtwo. He's switching to his own Mewtwo. Now, something that could happen is if he gets a rare candy and a Gardevoir, and then another energy, he can actually side drive. Because he'll have the 2 Psychic and the energy to use the attack. But I don't think he got it, so he's just going to X-ball for 80. Interesting that he decided to just kind of go for that Mewtwo, because honestly, Hano is just kind of giving him a play. Yeah, and there's a double colorless. He's going to X-ball. And otherwise, I mean, James could have just X-balled for 60, and then if he got his Gardevoir in play the next turn, he could have just X-balled for 120 with another attachment. So, I'm not sure. Because we know that a lot of switches are gone already, so it's going to be really tough for Hondo to have a switch DC to really respond to your Mewtwo. But, James, his whole philosophy has just been go for it. He's just been taking risks the whole time. They've been paying off so far. This time it might not pay off, though. As we do see Hondo play an N. Both players are going to shuffle in and draw 6. And Hondo will draw first blood this game. Take the first 2 prizes. And you got to wonder what James is going to do from here. All he can really do is X-ball. He does play Meloetta, I suppose. I didn't know if that was in his deck when he level balled. But that's a cheap 1 energy solution to finish off this Mewtwo here. That's also an option. Because the Mewtwo has, let's see, it has 90 hit points left at this point. It's got 80 damage on it. So a Psychic from Meloetta would finish the job. But otherwise, his only option is the X-ball. And that just opens up the door for Hondo to, X-ball and we just get into a messy Mewtwo war. But he's going to take the first 2 prizes, take the lead here. Now, we did see James draws a double colorless off the top, and there is Rare Candy Gardevoir. Uh-oh. It's coming into play. And a Psychic on the Mewtwo. I like that move a lot. He uses the Psychic. I think he has a DC in his hand, and Jando has to read the Gardevoir. There might be some confusion on whether or not it always provides 2 Psychic energy. It can be confusing when it comes to X-Ball for counting for 2 energy or 1, since it's only 1 energy card, but it does provide 2 energy. So you just kind of treat it as a double colorless. And so it's going to X-Ball for 160 here. I know it looks funny, but it does count as 2. It's bringing me back to the old days of Meganium, where it provided 2 grass energy. I gotta say, it's nice to see something like this working again, but it's definitely far from over. This game's got a lot of life left in it. If Jando can pull off, a DCE plus power this turn, it'll be a knockout. Or an energy switch DCE, that'll be a knockout. One thing he really can't do, which is why I like the Psychic attachment, is he cannot go for Garbodor this turn. If he gets it off, he shuts off Gardevoir's ability, which then makes the Psychic only count as 1. And then he can't really X-Ball for a knockout. So it's kind of something strange I didn't think about, where Gardevoir can mess up a lot of the exchanges with Mewtwo Wars when it comes to Garbodor. You don't really see this interaction a lot, but that's something to watch out for. That might just make it so Jando can never really get Garbodor out, and maybe we just see Gardevoir sitting out there the whole game, actually being able to use the ability, because otherwise Jando can't respond. We're seeing him struggle on whether or not to use an Ultra Ball here. It's like he's eyeing discarding a Catcher and a Juniper, so he must have another Juniper in his hand. He's going to end up discarding that anyway. Let's see what he goes for. Now, the fact that he decided to promote Mewtwo means he's got to have some cards that will allow him to go for an X-Ball this turn. I mean, he's got to have, probably got like a plus power, or he's probably got a DC, maybe even the energy switch. He's going to grab Garbodor here. But again, he cannot attach a tool to it. If he does, he shuts off Gardevoir's ability and makes it so he really cannot attack this turn for a knockout. And if you're attacking a Mewtwo and you're not knocking it out, you're probably going to get knocked out next turn by their X-Ball, which is not the situation you want to be in, obviously. So here comes Garbodor. You see another Mewtwo in Jando's hand. He's going to put the EV Light on the Mewtwo. That could end up being big if he gets a DCE and a plus power. It'll make it much more difficult for James to respond with a knockout. What will Jando do here? Obviously he has a supporter. He discarded the Juniper. At least I hope so. I think he's deciding whether or not he wants to put down that extra Mewtwo. Does he really want to just go all-out Mewtwo War? And it looks like he decided to. We have the energy switch and a Juniper. He's going for it. This is a huge draw, and he draws DCE, so at the very least he'll get a knockout here. Now this is big if he can get a tool on Garbodor this turn. That'll shut off Gardevoir and make it so that James needs to have a DCE to get a knockout here. But actually he cannot play the tool, because then he would need a plus power as well. So it's going to be really easy for James to respond now. Jando will have the advantage, and he also has the EXP share down, so he'll have a spot to get the fighting energy back for an energy switch in the future. But it's going to be tough. He's going to have to respond with another X-Ball for 3 energy. You never want to be the guy who needs 3 energy in the Mewtwo War. It's always going to be that much more difficult for you to get the knockout. You want to be the guy who wants to be attacking with the 2 energy into the 3 energy guy. And that's what we're seeing here. We see a Charon for 3, See, does he get a Psychic this turn? I know he has a DC at the very least. And there's a Psychic. Man, this could honestly just come down to next turn. Does Hondo have another response? I see James does have a Tool Scrapper in his hand, so he could discard that EXP share. We see a Curlia, so that was prized. Does he want to play the Tool Scrapper here? It's an interesting choice. You know, you could dump the EXP share off the Landorus and make it tougher for Hondo to respond with a knockout next turn. He can't do any energy switch shenanigans. He would just need a straight up double colorless plus power to knock you out. And then if he whiffs it, and yep, he's going to go for the Tool Scrapper. If he whiffs it, that opens up the door for James's Mewtwo just finishing the game off with a catcher. And there we go. There's an X-Ball. 2-2 here. Who's going to win this Mewtwo war? Hondo promotes a Landorus, so that indicates he is not willing to attack with Mewtwo one more time. We have a Charon for 3. Draws a DC. Plus power. Does he have a switch? If he has the switch, he wins the game. That is just enough. There's a DC. It looks like he's got it. Plus power. And there is the switch. Wow, a perfect set of cards there off that Charon. Drew the DC and the plus power. And that is just another incredible game. We're going to head to a third game here in the top 8 of the Mississippi Valley Regional Championship here in St. Charles, Missouri. Cannot ask for a more exciting matchup. I mean, it might be kind of bang, bang, back and forth, but it's exciting at the very least. Gotta hand it to James for, I mean, he's making things exciting with a Gardevoir deck. You know, I don't know what else to say. I thought it would be a bad matchup for him, just the Garbodor shutting off the Gardevoir, but I guess it's a lot closer than I thought. We'll see what happens in the third game. I don't think Hondo wants to let this degenerate into a Mewtwo war if he doesn't have to, because that's just kind of playing into what James wants. I think perfect world, he would just kind of start with Landorus and Hammerhead stuff for a while. Only use Mewtwo when you really, really have to. Otherwise, you're just kind of walking into the guy who wants to get in a Mewtwo war with you. So these guys are going to shuffle up. This is a very intense third game here. A lot on the line, a lot of championship points, a lot of prizes. Of course, the winner of this regional championship will get 100 championship points and a fully paid trip to the national championships in Indianapolis. Your flight is paid for, your hotel is paid for. Basically, you get to go for free and spend a week playing Pokemon. And you can't ask for much better than that. Alright, now James will get to choose who goes first in the third game. If you're Hondo, you've got to be hoping that you do not start with a Trubbish. That would be the worst thing. But alright, there's a Sigilyph for James, and we got a Mewtwo from Hondo. Now, normally this is the worst thing you could possibly see if you're the guy opening with Mewtwo, but if you're playing Garbodor, it's actually not the worst thing in the world, since you can get that out and then shut off Safeguard, and then Mewtwo, once again, can just knock out Sigilyph. So we're going to see a level ball for another Sigilyph. I believe James plays 2 or 3 of those in his deck. Just, you know, in response to all of those big basic decks, you know, the Landorus, Mewtwo, Bouffalant decks, they just don't run enough ways to knock out Sigilyph. There is a Psychic turn 1, and oh, did he pass? Yeah, it looks like he just passed. He did not play a supporter, even though he had, I saw at least 2 in his hand. He decided not to play one. Maybe he just forgot. Maybe he was just trying to kind of disguise his hand strength. Maybe he's got like a double colorless and all sorts of stuff, and he just didn't want Hondo to end him, or he just wanted Hondo to kind of overextend or something like that, maybe bench a Trubbish. But for whatever reason, he did not decide to play a supporter there. He might just kind of be laying low, or maybe he just didn't want to waste the resources if he doesn't have to. If you already have everything you could want, no reason to really do anything. And, oh, it's going to backfire. He was just showing, yep, he had, oh, so many supporters. And I guess he was going to Skyla for the computer search, get the DC. He had a catcher anyway. But wow. And Jando just showing that he really had to end there. All he had was Mewtwo and a bunch of fighting energy. So a weird opening sequence there, where James, he really was just trying to lay low and let Jando bench Trubbish so that he could Sigilyph for a computer search, get a DC, and catch it and knock it out. Because that is something that can happen. Sigilyph can actually be very good in this matchup still. If Jando's only able to bench one Trubbish at a time, they can just get picked off by catcher, and then you can just never be able to do anything about it. There is one Trubbish. I believe Jando does play Terrakion, so there is a way to deal with Sigilyph no matter what. We're going to see a catcher just trying to make sure that we don't see a Psychic turn 2. And he's going to pass. So not a very good start. No energy attachment. You know, even if he did have an energy, I don't think he would want to attach it anywhere. You don't want to put it on Mewtwo. You might want to put it on Trubbish. I don't know. But it seems like a bad hand. And there's an Ultra Ball. We'll see if it's for another Mewtwo or if it's for a Ralts. Yeah, there is the Ralts. We're going to see what else he has in his hand. He discarded an N, so he certainly has a supporter, whether it's another N or a Juniper. Usually when you see someone discard an N, it's because they have a Juniper. It's really the only supporter that's better than N at this point in the game. And a Bianca, I guess that works too. Does he draw the cards to get an attack off this turn? One more card. Does he need a switch, a DC, to pull off an attack this turn? There is a Psychic, so nope, no luck there, and he's going to pass. Now this opens up some plays for Jando if he has the cards for it. If he can get a Garbodor out this turn, with a tool on it, catch up that Sigilyph, he can X-Ball it for a knockout and take away that threat. But that's going to take a lot of cards. Considering he's already played a catcher, he's already put down a tool. Might not happen. And it looks like he did top deck an N, so he's going to have a supporter for the turn at least. Still a very weird situation. The Sigilyph is probably not very important in this matchup, but if you can build up enough time, and he's showing he did have the switch, he just didn't have the DC that turn. If you do have the time to power up a Sigilyph instead of using a Mewtwo, using that non-EX attacker is going to go a long way in terms of just the overall game. Not having to use 3 Mewtwo's, or even still forcing your opponent to knock out all 3 Mewtwo's, and then a Sigilyph as well. So if he has the time to power it up, he's definitely going to use it. Just in the first 2 games, he really didn't have time, considering turn 1 in the first game, he X-balled for 180. Alright, so we do have an N from Jando for 6. We'll see what he gets off of this. He does have a DC, but that's worthless if he cannot do anything else. If he doesn't have a... Oh, there's a Rescue Scarf. If he gets a Garbodor out, he could just attach a DC and X-Ball, but is that really worth it? Unless you have a catcher, I definitely wouldn't do it. And X-Balling a Sigilyph for 80 is not the brightest idea in the world. Considering he could just be knocked out by all sorts of things. I don't know if James plays Energy Switch in his deck. I haven't seen one yet. I really don't think he does. But if he did, that would open up some options for him with Energy Switching and X-Ball. And Jando's just going to pass. He did not want to play the DC down. Don't blame him. Now, let's see. We have a Level Ball. I'm assuming that's going to go for Kirlia. And let's see. Just kind of looking through his deck, seeing what's in there. Take a look. If there's no Kirlia in there, I wonder what he would go for. I don't know if you want to bench another Ralts. Maybe you do. But what else would you take here? You only get Pokemon with 90 hit points or less. The only options are Ralts. And yeah, Kirlia again is prize, it looks like. So Gets a Ralts. He's already got 2 Sigilyph out there. I don't think he plays 3. He did show me that he plays Meloetta, so I guess he could always grab that. Maybe he wants to keep that as a surprise, though. Alright, so there's Ralts. I see a Gardevoir in his hand, but he's just going to attach to Sigilyph. And it looks like he might pass. Yep, so that's not pretty for James. He does not have anything, no supporter. Much different than his opening hand with the 5 supporters. And now what does Jando do from here? He's got a computer search, so he can probably just grab a supporter if he doesn't have one. If he does, I'm not sure what he grabs. Maybe Garbodor. Oh, he's got to dump 2 tools there. So that's going to make Tool Scrapper that much more devastating if it ever comes into play. And what is he going to take with this? Computer search, you discard 2 cards. You get to take any card from your deck, put it into your hand. It's an ace spec card, so you can only play 1 of them in your deck. Back in the day, you used to be able to play 4 of those things, but they realized their mistake, and now you can only play 1. Alright, so it looks like he's eyeing up the Garbodor. That's what he's going to take here. This is going to be rough. You know, if he can get Garbodor and then attach the DC and catch up the Sigilyph from James, or he doesn't even need to catch her, he can just X-Ball the active one now for 100. That's going to be his best bet, probably. It's going to be scary if, you know, James responds with a Mewtwo DC double plus power, but I don't see that happening. And, I mean, it happened in the first game, so I don't know. But his hand looks much worse than it did in the first game. Alright, so down comes another Mewtwo. Jando's saying, let's go to war. And 3rd game in a row, we're just going to go Mewtwo's all the time. Here's a Juniper for 7. Gets another Trubbish. That can be big to put down here. And we're going to see an X-Ball. He doesn't have a catcher. He doesn't have anything fancy. So X-Ball for 100. It's weird to see Mewtwo knocking out a Sigilyph, but it can happen. Alright, so he's got to waste a DC here. Now he's going to catch up Garbodor. This is big. He's going to take that out of play. Sure, Jando gets it back with a Rescue Scarf, but if he doesn't have a tool, he actually cannot shut off Safeguard. So what does he do? Then he's just got a Mewtwo there with a DC on it. And what does he do with that? So, oh, he's got a Rescue Scarf in his hand. So it looks like he might have got that off his prize. That's going to be huge. He's going to be able to X-Ball this Sigilyph. So we have a Rescue Scarf. And that is not what James wanted to see. His run might be coming to an end here. What else does Jando have? What does he want to do this turn? I think he should just take out the Sigilyph. It's the only thing with energy on it. No reason to do anything else. And it's just going to be so tough for James to really mount any sort of offense. He doesn't have any supporters. Yeah, he's just going to promote a Ralts here. He does have a DC in his hand. He's going to attach a Psychic to Mewtwo. And catcher up Garbodor. Maybe try to buy some time here. And he looks like it's still no supporter. He's going to have to pass. And now does Jando have a switch? If he has a switch, he can just X-Ball this turn. I think perfect world, he would switch, drop another double colorless, catcher up that Mewtwo, take 2 more prizes, and it's just one more X-Ball knockout, game over. But it looks like he's just going to attach to his Landorus. And pass. No switch, no supporter. And it looks like James top decks of Bianca, so he might be back in this one. See another, oh, there's Meloetta coming down. We don't see that very often. Bianca for 4. We'll see a DC on the other Mewtwo. Drop to 6. And I thought I have not been updating the prize count. It is 6 to 5 right now.
We are waiting for you back in
Alright, so this is going to be tough for James because Hondo's at 4 and he's at 5, and he still wasn't able to get a prize this turn. At some point, he's going to have to attack with a non-EX to win the game, I think. I don't know how he's going to pull that off. I don't know what he's going to use. Both of his Sigilyphs are down, and oh, Hondo rips the switch, promotes the Mewtwo. Does he have all the cards to pull off a Mewtwo knockout this turn? He's got a DCE in hand. What's he going to do with it? I think he should attach it somewhere this turn. Probably to the bench Mewtwo if he's going to just X-ball the Ralts for a prize. But you gotta wonder, was it worth, if he doesn't have a catcher here, is it worth doing this? Would he be better off just using Hammerhead with Landorus for 30 and 30 to the other Ralts? That way he doesn't open himself up to a Mewtwo War, but there's the catcher, he's got it. And here we go. I think at this point, I mean, he's energy switched onto the active. He still has an attachment for the turn. He can put the other DC on the bench Mewtwo. And I think that almost just wraps the game up. I don't see what James does from there. So Hondo needs to attach his other DCE this turn. He puts down a Terrakion as well. Just preparation for N, so he doesn't draw back into that. He might be tempted to kind of lay low and just mask his hand strength and act like he does not have the DC to just kind of trick James into X-balling him, and then, you know, the game's over when he has it. But it's much better in this situation to just attach and say, you know what, I don't think you can deal with this. Because honestly, he can't. And he shoves up a Mewtwo. I'm not sure why he's doing this. He cannot attack with Mewtwo this game. It's over. He just gets X-ball and loses. If he attacks with Mewtwo this turn, he really needed to just find another way. But I think at this point, he just kind of conceded to the fact that he cannot win. And he extends his hand. Hondo Luna will advance to the top 4. We see a Garbodor deck. James Proctor, he had a great run. He provided some exciting games, but oh, look at those prizes. He had 2 rare candies and a Curlia. But yeah, great run from James. You've got to hand it to him with a road deck. Nobody expected Gardevoir. He made the games very exciting. Just could not pull off that third one. And congratulations to Hondo. He's going to move on. And we're going to see him in the top 4. I'm not sure what the results are from the other matches. We did have Kevin Forbes actually defeated Taylor Davis. So we're going to see a Blastoise Keldeo deck. We're going to see, that's actually Hondo's next matchup. We're going to see Kevin versus that. Garbodor versus Blastoise. So thank you guys for watching here. I'm Pooka from the Top Cut. We will be back with the top 4 shortly. That was an exciting series. Stay tuned. We'll just have 2 more rounds to go. See who will be crowned the regional champion here in St. Charles.